This is a classic because, unfortunately, the power dynamics between genders is still very relevant.
This is a classic because it's about figuring out a new path in life.
This is a classic because it makes us reflect on our roles as artists.
This is our history. This is our legacy.
Shannon Corenthin, she, her, a curator for Expand the Canon. Expand the Canon is a program of Hedgepig Ensemble, a Brooklyn-based company that reimagines the classics, creating a legacy of storytelling with gender equity at its core.
Today, we're exploring Man-kuei's Heaven Challenges from the Expand the Canon list available at expandthecanon.com. If you were to go to that site, and you should, you would find this pitch.
If you're looking for a dramedy about reframing your life and learning to fall in love with yourself again, consider this powerful Chinese play about love, loss, and artistic identity. Taking place in West China during the Sino-Japanese War, Heaven Challenges centers around Shih Kun-Yi, a housewife who has given up her love of painting to serve her husband. When he divorces her in an attempt to climb the social ladder, Shih Kun-Yi must discover how to fall in love all over again, with herself, her art, and her friends, who are just as lost as she is. If the confrontation of gender roles in Ibsen's A Dollhouse speaks to you, dive into this striking tale.
Dum, dum. I love that it's a play about, to dive right into sort of the themes and what I love about this play.
Yes.
I love that it's a play about like being an artist and figuring out like what it is to be like a professional artist and like how to navigate that on some level. I feel like there is definitely a struggle for She about like, am I a real artist? Is this just something I do as a hobby? Like, what does it mean for me to be a professional? What does it mean for me to make money off of this? That's like layered underneath all of this other like interpersonal drama.
I do love the question of just how, as women growing up in a society where, you know, we always have to validate ourselves and make ourselves smaller to leave room for other people. Like, how do you take space as an artist, and how do you not suffer from imposter syndrome or really believe in yourself as an artist, which I really identified with. Like, you know, how do you grow into yourself as an artist to be like, no, I'm worthy of this without validation from others, or just as myself, I'm worthy of being an artist and I can call myself an artist.
Yeah. I think what's really lovely is that while that validation has to come from within, I also think it's like nice to see that having supporters is not a bad thing. Like having someone to like go submit your artwork for you is also really helpful at certain times. Like we also could all use a support system.
Yes.
And to have that in Liao, my favorite man character in this play, is really lovely.
Agreed. I've been thinking about this lately a lot of just like how art is a community, you know, it's a community endeavor. Like, sure, someone's name is attached, but like, it truly is, you know, it's a community activity. It's a community engagement of, you can't create alone. And I think we see when artists do create alone that they suffer greatly and that it's harder. And sometimes you just need others to, not to believe in you, but to be there with you and to be your support system.
Yeah.
I think that's something that was really important in this play too. Like even Pan, who, you know, is a problematic character in so many ways, does help She discover her artistry and broaden. I mean, if it wasn't for him, she probably wouldn't, or maybe she would have, but not in the way, like gone into the Western styles of painting, which affected her traditional Chinese painting style. I think there are elements to that are just like, yeah, you learn from other people, you learn from other artists, and you take what works for you and then you let the rest go.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think there's also such merit to all of the non-artistic characters in this play being a support system as well, of like Wu Shuang was like also a really big champion of She and just like supportive of her work. And there are a couple of mentions of She's maids who are like, how can I like support you in your other life so that you can continue to be an artist in a way that's really lovely. Yeah, support systems. Huge. Yeah,
especially, and I think that's something that what makes this play so relevant is the fact that this is still something that we talk about clearly today, especially after what we've all been through in the last 3 years and continue to go through in our daily lives. Like, community is so important.
And I think it's also the right community for each person. Like, it's so clear that her ex-husband is not the right community for her. He's like, please stop painting. In fact, she's like taking down all her paintings and putting up like generic photos of like international political figures at the beginning of the play when she's like preparing for him to come home. And so I think it's also like, what's the right community for you? Who is actually going to support you?
Yeah.
It's clearly not her ex.
Nope.
Yeah.
I think also the title, because, you know, you read a title of a play and you're like, when is this going to pop up? And then it does. And you're like, this makes so much sense.
So much sense.
I kept wanting to call this Heavenly Challenges. And I even titled this recording like Heavenly Challenges, because that's what you like want to conceptualize it as. But then heaven challenges of like, heaven is actually challenging you. It just like, I remember having to sit with that for a moment when Liao and Xi are talking about her piece, and just the fact that like, yes, going through hardship is hard, lols, but there's another side of it of just to like keep going. Like, these challenges are for a reason. And whether you believe in heaven, hell, whatever, there's a force out here that is pushing you to become stronger. The whole like, you have to press coal to make a diamond type of thing. Like,
and I think I love the sort of like so many different ways to interpret it, because I also think like she's interpretation of like, but I want her to also be challenging heaven. I want this woman to challenge sort of what has been laid out in front of her, I think is also really apt of like, how is she also pushing back against it all, I think is very descriptive of the play.
oh my God, I know. I'm like, and this is to no fault of anyone's, but just like things happen and sometimes you cannot get back up, right? You're just like, this keeps happening to me, and all I want to do is lay in bed and not do anything. Like, this is just too much. Her strength is insane, which again speaks to the title and the conversation that they have with Liao, that is very much like, you get challenged in direct relation to how much you can handle, right? Of like, it seems like so much, but if you are being challenged this way, it's because you can handle it and you can grow, and you can choose to, or you can choose to lay down.
Yeah. And luckily she chooses to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I actually really love how they describe all of the artwork.
Yes.
I was like, I am back in college in an art history class and like looking at all of the symbolism. And I was like trying to imagine these pieces, and I was like, you know, like traditional Chinese painting is like it's not like full of stuff. They're like usually actually like pretty simple. On like a surface level, they look really simple. And I'm like, and yet she's like able to convey all of this information and all of this symbolism, and they're like talking about this artwork, and I'm like, wow. Art is so descriptive.
Yes. It made me want to go to a museum. I know that sounds so stupid, but I was like, I want to go see some art and like talk about it this way. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I was like, wow, I need to look at art right now. Like you
said. It just reminds me of the power of art again, that like you can be in conversation, and all of art is in conversation. Like, I can imagine it being a world full of music, and the set design must be amazing because you get to paint these, right? Like, could you imagine being the set designer for this, or props master, and being like, I have to create this piece,
these paintings.
Yeah, I think if you, speaking of like producer brain, but like if you were to do this, like, do you work with a traditional Chinese artist to really bring this together? I would love to see it done and know that there is a team behind this that like thought about each piece, that thought about like what it would look like for her paintings at the beginning of her, you know, kind of painting career, and then to get to heaven challenges. See, I'm doing it again. And get to heaven challenges, and how that transforms, and also how the like Western paintings are in conversation with her Chinese paintings. Yeah, I think that would be so brilliant.
Yeah, especially because those paintings are the only thing that changes in the set. Like, it's all in one room, and it's just about her taking down and putting up different paintings.
Yeah. Like, how do you set the mood for, you know, like, can you imagine her house is full of paintings of color, of life, of imagery, and then she's taking it down for her husband and talking about how much he loves him, but she's taking these beautiful works down and hiding them. Like, just the kind of the emotional trigger that you get immediately of just like going from this beautifully curated space to just be bare walls.
Yeah.
And then he breaks her heart.
Yep. And then the paintings go back up.
Yeah. Yep.
So anyways, whoever produces this, let us know so we can see this beautiful set.
Yes, for sure.
Legacy.
Before we dive into this plot, though, I do want to give a quick trigger warning that there is suicide in this play, or at least a mention of suicide. So just letting folks know and giving you some time to skip ahead if you wish, or turn this off if you wish.
I think we've done a really good job at distilling this play in a few sentences, but what is this play really about? What happens in this play?
As that lovely, short, little enticing blurb tells you, it's set in 1941 during the Sino-Japanese War in Chengdu, West China. And the play starts with your classic two maids gossiping about all of the goings-ons in the town. And what we learn is that Shih Kun-Yi, the heroine of the show, is waiting for her husband, Chang Kung-pu, to return after 3 years separated. They were separated because of war, and the husband took a diplomatic job, and so it's been a really long time, and they haven't seen each other for 3 years.
Insane.
I know. Can you imagine just like not even like telephones? They were just not talking for 3 years. And the gossip says that Chang might actually have taken a second wife during this time, and I don't know about that. But then we transition into actually meeting all of these characters. So she, who is the heroine, she's still really, really in love with her husband. She's super excited for him to come back. She clearly hasn't heard this gossip about maybe a second wife or a second family. And she's like preparing the house. She's like, he's coming back. I've got to buy all of his favorite things. We also learn that she's sharing this house with a couple other folks. She's renting out a couple of rooms. Mrs. Pan, who is the mother of a painting student of Shi's, actually, is there. And she visits and she's like, hey, your husband's coming back, but also, can you give my son some advice to actually go and marry his fiance of 10 years? So in all of this, we basically learn that she is a painter now, or she teaches painting to some folks, Mrs. Pan's son being one of them. And she's also really good friends, actually, with the fiance of Mrs. Pan's son, named Liao Wu Shuang. And so Wu Shuang comes and visits Shi, and she's like, oh my god, I'm really worried that my fiance's feelings have changed because it's been 10 years and he hasn't married me still.
I would also be worried.
I know. I feel like this is a very reasonable fear. And she's like, no. He's totally in love with you still. I'm going to tell him to actually marry you. Then Pan walks in, who is this elusive fiance, and surprised to no one, he doesn't seem that interested in actually marrying Wu Xiang. She's like talking to him, and she's like, you've got to make this right. You've got to marry her. And Pan's like, I don't know. Let's talk about something else. And he's like, why are you taking down all of your paintings here? And she's like, well, my husband's coming home, and he doesn't like it when I paint, so I'm going to stop painting. And so very quickly...
Oh, red flag.
Exactly. I'm like 3 years away, and he doesn't want you to paint? Terrible.
Yeah.
And so Pan does one thing right, and he's like trying to convince Shi to actually continue painting. He's like, you've clearly got a gift, and like, your husband shouldn't be discouraging this. You should keep painting. You clearly love it. But she is like, I just want to be a housewife. I'm excited for him to be back. I want him to be happy. So I'm going to stop.
It's valid. It's your choice. We don't want to take away anybody's agency if that's what you want to do. But...
red flag.
Clearly. Yeah. Red flag.
And so then this act ends with Chang coming home, as we expect. Again, surprise to no one, there's some more conflict happening in that he shares that he does actually have another person that he's interested in, and he's come back with the explicit intention of getting a divorce so that he can marry this modern woman named Evelyn in Singapore and start a thriving business with her and her father. And part of the reason he gives Shia that he like wants to get a divorce and marry someone else, he's not like, I'm out of love with you. He's like, I, as a modern businessman, need someone who can like engage in politics and learn English and be my business partner but wife, and you can't be that, so I'm gonna go marry Evelyn.
As if you can't learn. It's like he really just saw her as a one-dimensional person who's just this, right? There's no... because they've been together for longer than the 3 years and they've been apart, right? So this has been like, they've been married for a while, they were in love, and he's not like, you know what, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to bring you here. It's just like, I saw this other woman who's clearly who's already got the things that I want, except the things I love about you. So sorry, but we're done.
Right. It's like, people can grow, maybe? Like, you also are starting a new business, so maybe people can learn. So anyways, she is very rightfully angry and upset, and she's like, we haven't even seen each other for 3 years, and this is the first thing you say to me. Like, what is happening? I've been keeping your home. I lost your child while we were moving here. What is happening? And he's like, I will give you a lot of money if you divorce me. And she's like, I will divorce you, but I don't want your money. I don't need you in my life anymore, which that is how Act 1 ends.
I remember being like, this man is so callous, like so unfeeling, very transactional of like, this is what this person can bring me. You do not bring this to my life. You hold no value anymore. So I'm returning you to like returning this Amazon package, you know, type of thing, and switching it for something else.
Truly wild stuff. So a month later, that husband is out of her life and she is painting again, which is great because she's just finished like a real masterpiece of a painting that like everyone who's visiting her is like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. This is the most amazing thing we've ever seen. Even among some of the most like renowned works, like this really stands up. And she's like being humble and she's like, no, I'm just an amateur and whatnot. A number of people come and visit her during this time. Wu Shuang comes. The two of them talk about why is it that they have to be married in order to make a living in this world, and like how difficult it is to be single women and sort of the reliance that they have on men. And then Wu Shuang's father, Liao Qingzhu, comes and visits Xi for a couple of reasons. One is that he's actually a great art collector, and she really wanted to know what he thought of the piece and just get the perspective of someone who sees a lot of really wonderful paintings. And he comes and he's obviously like, this is beautiful, this is a masterpiece. Maybe add like a little bit more to the sky. There's like some balance issues, but other than that, this is like really beautiful. You've done this incredible thing of marrying like emotional art with like your technique and whatnot. And during this time, they like talk about the painting and what it's about. And what they realize is that this piece is about this woman who is, well, she thinks it is a piece about the woman in the painting sort of challenging the heavens and being like, why have you given me such a terrible life? And why are you giving me so many trials? Which feels like it maybe echoes her own emotional state.
Feelings, right.
Liao is like, well, heaven puts the people who are like strongest through trials to help them get stronger. So maybe that's like part of it too, is that this woman in the painting, also she, is maybe being put through trials so that she can get better and go on to paint more masterpieces. And so they as a group decide to name the piece Heaven Challenges, sort of in recognition of the duality of who is challenging who and what is the challenge here.
I have to say, side note, just that relationship between Liao Qingzhu and Xi, I felt like, especially within this play where the men feel very,
Yep.
yeah. like, but the way Liao Qingzhu speaks to her feels very like revering, honoring and respecting her talent, telling her that the marriage, that doesn't end her life, like not being married and blah, 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 and really building her up as you would just a regular person, which you don't see. This is the first man that you're seeing do this in this play, and he's an older man. I think he's in his 60s.
Yeah.
I just really found that super refreshing to see an older man in the 1940s speaking to a woman and seeing her thrive and wanting her to build upon that, really telling her to go for it and like building her up and helping her. It felt really beautiful, especially in that moment after you've seen her being torn down by her husband.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I also think what's so lovely is that she's like asked him over for advice, but he, I don't know, I think the way he like gives it is he's like, I'm like noticing this and not like a prescriptive, like you should add more stuff. He's like, it seems like this is unbalanced and like maybe that's your intention, but if you want it to also be about how the heaven challenges people, like maybe you need to like give them a life more too. Yeah.
Right. Which feels like what art is, like art should be, especially when you're in a community and you're building upon each other. Yeah. Very, very beautiful moment.
Yeah. Easily one of my favorite men in this piece.
The bar's low.
But he also has like a double motive, right? He's here and he's like, hey, Pan is supposed to marry my daughter, and he hasn't in so many years. You seem to have a lot of influence over Pan. Can you also tell him to like come visit me? I think we had some miscommunication in the past, and I think the two of us should just like talk and figure it out, and then they can get married, and it's gonna be great. And so she's like, yeah, totally, I can do that. I'll tell him to come visit you, and I will do my best. So, Wu Shuang leaves, and Pan finally comes to visit Xi. And of course, she is like, you need to go talk to your fiancé's father and figure it all out and finally get married, because once again, it has been 10 years. And Pan is like, no, I don't want to do that, because I am actually in love with you. And I want to break my engagement to Wu Shuang. And it's like, sir, what?
It's just like, no.
And so that's how Act 2 ends, which is really, a fun and terrible place for all involved.
The cliffhangers at the end of these acts are wild.
Really wild. It really helps keeps the pages turning. So we jump forward to a year later. She has been working really hard. She picked up a job teaching painting. She's teaching these I think high school girls how to paint. And so she's exhausted, but also happy, I think, because she's like making her own way. She has her own salary. She can paint still. She has time to paint in the morning. Well, she makes time to paint in the morning. And so she's doing all this painting. In the meantime, Pan has, well, they say he's taught her how to paint in the Western style, but perhaps it is more of a mutual engagement.
Teaching?
But so she started dabbling in sort of Western painting styles and watercolor in addition to sort of traditional Chinese painting. It's not actually until this act that Pan reveals that he's actually planning on breaking his engagement. He tells Wu Shuang herself that he's going to break his engagement, and he tells everyone that this is like his plan.
I think in Act 2, correct me if I'm wrong, she tells Pan that like she cannot be in love with him, like that this relationship cannot happen. She encourages him to go back to Wu Shuang. Like, I am not in love with you.
Yeah,
like
my husband
this
just
cannot
left me.
happen.
Yeah.
My husband just left me. Yeah, literally, Pan, wrong timing. But she has some clear boundaries that she set with Pan.
And at the end of Act 2, I think he also sort of like mildly agrees to like go. He's like, okay, I won't do anything.
Right. He's like, I'm in love with you. I'll do whatever you say.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But then a year later, he's like, oh, I'm still in love with you. And Wu Shuang comes and talks to him, and he's like, well, I'm actually going to break my engagement to you. And obviously they get in a fight because of all of this.
Duh.
Because Wu Shuang's like, it's been 10 years and I'm still in love with you. Pan reveals that he like can't love Wu Shuang because he's in love with Xi. And Wu Shuang's like, well, obviously when she was being nice to me, it was because she wanted to get closer to you and she's not actually my friend. And so there's this whole blowout where Wu Shuang was like, everyone has been conspiring against me and I am the victim of all of this, which, to be fair, she is the victim of a lot of things.
Truly.
So that happens, and then she is like, whoa, what happened? Why is Wu Shuang mad at me? Like, she just ran out of the room, and she's accusing me of all of this stuff.
Also, I think important to note that she is, I think, older than Pan and Wu Shuang. Not that Wu Shuang is correct in blaming Xi, but I get where she's coming from and where you can spiral.
I totally see where she's coming from, especially when, like, she's been rejected so, like, intensely. And so she is finally like, dude, I really don't love you, and you really have to marry Wu Shuang.
Yeah.
And she's like, if you, like, love me and want to make me happy, then you need to make Wu Shuang happy so that I can be happy. Which, like, great tactic. And so Pan's finally like, okay, if it'll make you happy, I love you so much that I will do this. But right before he can go and tell Wu Shuang that he's going to marry her, Wu Shuang actually commits suicide. And the maid, like, runs in and is like, she shot herself. So that ends very tragically, and is yet another cliffhanger at the end of this act. So then 1 month later, in Act 4, we find out that people are actually blaming Xi for Wu Shuang's death. They're like, she seduced Pan, she drove this wedge between them, she, like, convinced Pan to not marry Wu Shuang, and it's her fault. And so this scandal is now following her around, and she ends up being fired from her post as a teacher because of it.
She truly cannot catch a break.
No, it's just one after another. And she's like, I found another job at a school that's farther away, but I don't know how long it's going to take before the gossip will reach them and I'll be fired. And so she's just in this bind of, like, she had just found her, like, career and a way forward and a way to, like, be independent, and everything is coming crashing down on her again. But the one sort of golden light in all of this is that Liao, who is Wu Shuang's father and the, like, art critic, he comes and he's like, you've been so kind to me in the wake of my only child's death, and I think you're really talented and we've become really good friends. I want to gift you the house that you have been renting from me and that she's been currently living in. And so he comes and he's like, here, you are, like, basically my only daughter now, and I'm going to give this to you. And so she, like, at least has that sort of security of, like, she can stay living there. And if she wants, she can rent out the other rooms and make a little bit of profit there.
My respect for Liao fully,
Truly.
like, jumped. Yeah, it's like, yes. Especially because, like, his granddaughter supposedly killed herself because of her relationship with Xi, and to still be like, I recognize that this is not your fault. I think there's also the moment where Liao is like, Pan sucks.
Yes.
And berates Pan, and it comes from the respect and the understanding, I think also with his age, of, like, understanding what the situation is and being like, you do not deserve this, regardless of what everybody says. I will continue to support you. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, and I think it's really lovely because he keeps mentioning, he's like, you visited me so many times. You, like, helped me, like, work with my grief. And I'm like, I love that they just, like, have this friendship and, like, care for each other. And I love that the play was like, yes, he also grieved about this whole situation and was, like, depressed for a while. He was like, I could barely get out of bed, and if it weren't for you, like, I think I would have stayed there. And so to, like, even to hear secondhand, like, his vulnerability was really heartbreaking, but also really lovely to witness, I think. After he leaves and gives her the house, Pan comes in and is like, oh my god, there's a painting contest happening with these incredible prizes. There's a Western art division and there's a Chinese art division, and the like first place winner of each of the divisions will get to not only get a lot of money, but also will get to teach at the National College of Arts. They'll be invited to be a professor there. So obviously a great opportunity for their careers, and Pan is like, I am definitely going to submit something. I'm going to paint this painting that is called Wu Shuang's Paradise. It's going to be about the paradise she dreamed of, and I'm going to submit it, and I'm going to win. With all the confidence of a straight man, he says he will win. And she's like, yeah, you should do it. That sounds like a great tribute to Wu Shuang, and I'm sure you'll win because she is a supportive mentor / painting partner. And so some months later, in Act 5, Pan has finally finished this piece that's inspired by Wu Shuang. But also, at the same time, he's, like, still wooing Xi. He's like, I painted this piece in memory of my dead fiancé, and also I still love you, and we should get married so that when I win this competition, you can come with me when I teach at the school. Which is like, okay, weird timing, but okay.
Yeah, as if you haven't been the one who's been teaching me and supporting me and being my mentor, my artistic mentor this whole time.
And so she's like, we'll see. I don't know if I'll marry you. Which, so fair and so real of her.
Yeah.
And then Liao enters and he's like, hey, you really should submit your piece to the competition. And she's like, I don't know that it's that good. And Liao's like, I don't care what you say. You gave me this painting a few months ago. I'm going to go submit it on your behalf. And you will see when you win that I was right and you were wrong. And I'm like, this is maybe the only time when a man does something without her consent that I feel okay about. Yeah.
So real.
And so he enters this painting, and like a month later, we learn that she did in fact win. Liao was right, and she was wrong, and she won first prize for Chinese painting. Also, Pan has won first prize for Western painting.
Good for him.
But there's all these articles in the newspaper that are like, yeah, he won, but like the true masterpiece here is still Xi's piece, and like compared to like her piece, like Pan's piece is like really just fine. And it's like actually quite a mean article about his piece. And so Liao comes in and is like, Xi, I told you so, you won, and they've invited you to be a professor. And Pan is like, wait a second, I haven't gotten my invitation to be a professor. And so he throws this whole fit about how he wasn't invited, and he's like, whatever, I didn't want to teach there anyways. And he's like, you shouldn't accept it. And he's like really mad and just throws a whole fit. And so she ends up feeling some like imposter syndrome. She's like, I've only ever taught like middle and high school girls. I don't know if I can like teach real artists, quote unquote, real artists. I don't know if I am like ready to be a professor. She's feeling all this imposter syndrome, and obviously everyone's like, you should take it. You've won this prestigious spot, and even the gossip about Wu Shuang can't take that away. While she's deciding all of this, her ex-husband, Chong, actually comes back. He's like, hey, saw that you won this cool competition. Want to be married again? She's like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, I divorced my wife in Singapore, and I want to marry you. And she's like, I feel like, no, I don't want to be with you again. Yeah. And so she refuses him, which is, that is growth. Good job.
That was, good job. I know the change from Act 1 to Act 5 in terms of like what she says to him is beautiful.
Really, really lovely. And so after she decides not to marry him, she's like, you know what? I will take this position at this school. Like, they offered it to me. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna leave this place and leave it behind and like go take up this prestigious position, which is excellent. And then in the final hour, Pan comes back. He's got an envelope in his hands and he's like, oh, so I was actually acting too rash. I did get an invitation to be a professor. So you should accept your professorship and we should go teach together. And then he's like, oh, you did already accept. Great. Let's go move to the city and teach together. And she's like, okay. And so the two of them walk off into the sunset and teach art.
Yeah.
Which for me was maybe not the most satisfying ending because I dislike Pan, but I understand it.
Yeah, feels the most real. They've been friends for a while. He's gonna accept it regardless. So I think it speaks to her more than it speaks to him. She's a very forgiving person, clearly.
Yeah. It's like I wish she could be more spiteful, but I understand that. Like, I see it. Yeah, like you said, they're friends. He's clearly gonna go, and like, why start a fight before you even get there?
Exactly.
So that is what happens in this roller coaster of a play.
Such a wild ride, but beautiful.
Yeah, really beautiful.
History.
Should we talk a little bit about the playwright?
Yes, what a great segue.
So Li Man-kuei, or Li Man-kuei in Chinese, was a trailblazing politician, educator, and dramatist. She was born on June 13th in 1907 in the Taishan, Guangdong province of China, and she died on October 20th, 1975 in Taiwan. So she was 68, if I'm doing my math correctly. We actually don't know a ton about her personal life, but she had like a really prolific political and artistic life. A lot of her like political positions was about like educating folks and like teaching people art and teaching women to read, and she's like very educationally minded in sort of her political pursuits. She's actually one of the first women elected to the legislative yuan, which is a governmental branch that sort of decided on like budgets and laws and stuff. And she's elected in 1948, which is a very big deal. On the artistic side, she's actually also described as the mother of modern Chinese drama. So she's got like a lot of titles to her name, a lot of achievements, I would say.
Yeah. It's like when you see in those like old movies or fantasy books, if you're going to read them, and they're like, I don't know, Brad, first of his name, Slayer of Dragons, also Brad, lols, Slayer of Dragons, and blah, blah, blah. I feel like this is her.
Yeah.
These are her titles.
It's like name upon name upon name. Yeah. So she graduated from Yanqing University in 1930 with a degree in Chinese, and then moved to the U.S. right after to attend the University of Michigan on a Barber Scholarship. And that scholarship is like specifically for women who are excelling in their field and gives them basically a full ride to University of Michigan. So more excellence coming from her.
Yeah.
That's really sort of where she started writing plays. She studied playwriting and essays and fiction writing, and while she was there, she won the Hopgood contest for drama and essay for a play called The Grand Garden, and then also for her 4 essays on Chinese literary criticism. So, prolific writer, a really successful one, clearly. After that, she was employed as a compiler for the Biographical Dictionary of Famous Chinese in the recent 300 years at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Amazing.
Which is like a huge project, right? Famous Chinese in the last 300 years. Oh my God.
Wild.
Also at the Library of Congress. I'm like, can't even imagine it.
These two things in the same sentence are just, again.
Also, I'm thinking about how like she was raised in China, and probably English is like a second language on some level. Like incredible achievements all around.
Doing academic work in a language that is not your first, that is not your native language, is so impressive.
Hard. Yeah.
I just think that's crazy.
She does not stop there. She then goes to Columbia to study playwriting and story writing, while also working part-time at the East Asiatic Collections at Columbia and editing the Far Eastern magazine, which was specifically geared towards their international students at the time. So more education, more writing, more working at impressive places, and excelling. But after Columbia, she missed China, rightfully so. She grew up there.
I hear her, yeah.
And so she went back to teach and to write more and to like really create art for her people, which is really what she wanted to do.
Right.
But during the Chinese Civil War, which was between 1945 and 1949, she moved to Taiwan because of all of the conflict. And she is credited actually with reviving the local theater in Taiwan because she used her political influence to raise the profile of drama and to increase funding for theater. And so she had a really big hand in bringing all of that back. While she was there, she also organized 2 big drama festivals. The World Theater Festival, which was really about bringing around like classical plays from all around the world to Taiwan. So that there's like a cultural exchange of like, what is this country's like famous classical play, and like what is that country's, and just like a way to bring it all together. And then she also created the Youth Theater Festival, which was focused on Chinese plays but written by the youth, written by college students, really in a way to like raise up the profile of theater among younger people, which is always important, as we know. Yeah, she like really wanted to encourage international cultural exchange. She really wanted to make sure theater stayed alive and like present in the minds of youth. And she used her like power and influence to do that, which is really cool. So then in 1960, she established the Little Theater movement, which was a way of introducing Western styles to Taiwanese drama. I don't know this for certain, but I feel like it was probably influenced by her time in the US. I bet she probably like was like wow, what a great way for me to marry all of like the styles that I've grown up with and like what I've learned.
Right.
And also we kind of see parts of that in like Heaven Challenges when they're talking about Western painting and Chinese painting. Anyways, I digress. But she established that movement, and I think that was like really pivotal to Taiwanese drama. And that's sort of the extent of what we know about her like achievements and what she's done. And as you can tell, we really don't know anything about her personal life. I don't know if she like ever found a partner and like what her friends were like, but clearly she had a great like influence on Chinese theater.
You know, the fact that all we know about Lee Man-kuei is her achievements, brilliant. That's what we should know about. You know, like her successes and what she brought to the world, to China, to Taiwan, to the US, and the knowledge that she shared. I don't know, I feel like that's kind of beautiful. But like when you speak about successful men, you mention their achievements.
Yeah,
right?
like that's first. Yeah.
That's first. Exactly. And then the drama of their personal life is second, and is just like a little sprinkle. This feels right.
Totally agree. Also just like a very impressive list. I'm like, at the end of the day, still incredibly impressive.
For sure. I mean, this is a recurring theme, and this is Emily Lyon's line, but they're all badass women. Like all of these people who are writing these plays, they're clearly so successful. And that's why we talk about them, and that's why we highlight them as classics.
And now, a scene from this play, performed by Lizzie Roberts and Tim Liu.
Tell me, why are you so hard on Wu Shuang?
Because I don't love her.
How can you know you don't love her? Seeing her day after day, she would become mediocre even if she were an angel. But what's it you don't like in her?
Nothing particular.
Then why?
It's because I have discovered another woman who is 10 times, 100 times more worthy to be loved than she.
What? Oh, God, you too. You are of the same kind. All the same. Oh,
please, Kun-Yi, don't place me with that group of men. I am for love alone and not for fame nor for money. I have been suffering a fathomless pain because of this love.
You all have reasons to excuse yourselves. I only pity Wu Shuang. For 10 long years, she has been wasting her love. I had never thought you, too. I guaranteed to her that you certainly would not change. But I was wrong. She is, after all, a keener person. She has guessed it.
This woman is no other than... Oh, please listen to me.
I don't need to listen, and I know well the same leaden type of words.
Don't get angry, please.
I'm not angry. I'm only sad. Why are you men all like that?
Please, don't cry. I'll do what you want me to do. I'm your obedient...
Oh, you're like a little child.
You don't understand me. Of course you don't.
Don't take it this way, my friend. There's no reason why you should be so miserable.
I'm not miserable. I've been happy recently. In fact, I don't want any more. It is good enough this way.
Yes, Wu Shuang is really a good girl.
I don't mean her.
Then you're still talking about the other lady, aren't you? Who is she? Why haven't I ever heard you talk of her?
I talk of her every day.
But you won't tell me.
Why shouldn't I tell you? If you only let me pour out everything from my heart, and if you won't get angry. Kun-Yi, don't you understand? Don't you know my heart a little?
Mr. Pan, I will tell that lady that you are already engaged. And your fiancée is a very good girl who loves you very much, and I will advise her not to pay any attention to you.
But I love her. No matter what she does, I still love her.
But she will not love you. She shall not steal away another woman's love. How could she wound another woman's heart and ruin her happiness?
If another woman has stolen her own love and wounded her heart, why can't she also?
Mr. Pan, how can you say that? Do unto others what you want others to do unto you. The more one is wronged, the more she hates seeing other people wronged. If she has had such an experience, she would certainly sympathize with Wu Shuang all the more and understand her misery.
I think your moral standard is too high.
Why too high? Should it be low? It's all because people do not keep up their morality that there are so many unfortunate things in this world. Everybody is selfish. Everybody wants to have things suited to himself alone and forgets that there are other people to consider. Mr. Pan, please listen to me, and don't let your love falter so easily. The fate of a woman is miserable enough.
Thanks again to Lizzie and Tim for that beautiful scene, and thanks to Daniel Okapara for editing this episode.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of This is a Classic, the Expand the Canon podcast. Learn more at expandthecanon.com.
If you believe in the importance of expanding the canon, please give us a 5-star review and subscribe to this podcast.
And then hit the share button and forward it along to a friend, colleague, or professor.
For info on what's up next, you can follow us on Instagram,
At Hedgepig Ensemble Theater,
Facebook,
/Hedgepig Ensemble Theater.
or join our mailing list at hedgepigensemble.org.
And you can also support this effort by donating at the link in the comments below.
Again, I'm Shannon.
And I'm Kalina. Bye!
Ciao!